Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Colton James, I think it's a new Patreon, so shout out to you, Colton. BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot, Steve, On the Level, Thomas van der Zander, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sensial Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unamento, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, Level Playing Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Yun Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
X space, however you say that.
Cool. Anything interesting in there?
Oh yeah, we smoked a lot of Globers. It was fun.
Any examples?
There was a few that just came in and they conceded that they didn't know that the Earth was a globe just so they could hear the flat Earth side. But we still got it on recording that they conceded because we've asked them if they have any evidence for their position, and they have nada.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's just because they basically have to concede is the very first thing anyway. So they're just like, oh, we're going to, just because probably, right? I wasn't there, but probably.
Yeah, they all fall on their own sword, though, because they'll white knot for each other, and where one will be like, okay, I concede, the other one will take his place, and they'll be like, well, you flat earthers, don't know physics or science or whatever, and they'll go off on that tangent.
Oh, just pure projection. That's all they got.
I don't know. There's people out there that are flat earthers that I think don't know when they've won. So...
Oh, we covered that too. Actually, as I was leaving Alpha's space, which is Miggy, you guys know him. He's kind of on here.
Yeah, we know Miggy.
Somewhere. Yeah, you know Miggy. Yeah, his space is the one I was on. So, yeah, he was talking about he calls them esoteric flat earthers. And the esoteric flat earthers, he brought up a bunch. He was like, we're not them, and we don't carry their arguments. So if you're going to come in here and you're going to argue for the globe, don't refer to esoteric flat earthers' arguments, because we are not them.
Is that like esoteric earthers? Is that like the etherites?
Well, they fit into that category, but anyone in this arena that would be peddling some sort of belief that is some sort of higher knowledge than practical knowledge that everybody knows would be esoteric flat earthers.
Aha. Now, I don't think like Martin, I can't say his last name. I don't think he would fall into there because he's just like pure speculation, right? And some of the other guys that talk about like Tartaria.
Yeah, he brought up that. He was like the moon mappers, the speculators, the ones that peddle the dome, the ice wall, the outer ponds. All of those guys are esoteric flat earthers.
Oh, yeah, the outer ponds. That would make for a good comic book, I tell you what.
Yeah, no kidding.
and the ice wall. Like somebody needs to make a movie out of that.
Isn't well, yeah, using Captain Hook, they could do it. It'd be so easy.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting, huh? I like that movie Hook.
All filmed in port.
Isn't the actor for Peter Pan um Jeremy Sumter?
In the Hook movie?
Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it's
No,
another.
that's Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's another Peter Pan movie that's the main character. I can't remember. They all kind of mesh together.
Hmm.
If you watch Hook, they don't go out to sea. It's all on the boat in port, isn't it?
I don't know, but it probably because they're hardly ever like on the ocean.
Well, they're not. 'Cause it's too
Yeah.
difficult to film.
Not like Master and Commander, which is like the greatest movie ever made almost.
Toddled along to 24. Well, I say toddled along. I was up about 5 a.m. going, oh, I can't sleep. And then I put my iPad on. 24/7 was playing. And there's a decent enough discussion going, but I think it was a replay. So I thought, I'll actually go to the effort of joining, take my mind off my mouth, basically. So I got there and there was no one in the actual server, so it must have been a replay. As I was listening to it, I'm thinking, you've won. Why is this argument continuing? I mean, typically here, when we reach that point, we're all the more happy to point out that we've won. And that's normally when chaos ensues because they don't want to admit that they've lost. Now, while that didn't happen, it's because it seemed to me that the flat earthers are whistling past their win. Well, this is the end of the conversation, lads. You need to point that out.
It's a refined skill, because they can go off on a tangent, they can be clever and start talking about something else. Like there's very clever tactics these Globers have with words. And, an inexperienced flat earther can just skip right by that win.
Yeah, exactly.
All they have to understand is that we win on the very first step, though. So
yeah,
once they get
exactly, you've got to have won already to know that you've won at the end after the debates have been dispensed with all the nonsense. But you've got to have won from the outset.
Well, if you know Mickey, he likes to like really dig the dirt into the wound. So he's all about like just keeping it to the basics. He doesn't go off on any kind of weird tangents. If anybody, like I feel like I may have taken us off the rails a couple of times when I entered in. But I was trying to keep us on point, but we won every single argument. Absolutely.
Oh, Mickey sounds like I would like him because I'm kind of the same. I'll get into the nitty gritty in the trenches, like in the comments, and what's the observed phenomenon? Apple falling from tree? Okay. What's the independent variable for apple falling from tree? I love it.
Oh, Miggy doesn't take it anywhere near that. He just keeps it to the basics. He's got his 3 points. He's got there is nowhere in history has anyone ever measured drop over distance curvature. So direct measurement of drop over distance. And he also, the second.
Drop from what?
Is there. What's that?
Drop from what?
From a tangent to the observer. So there would be a tangent there. There would need to be drop over distance from that tangent.
Drop's not measured from tangents.
Yeah, that's what he says. Well, that's what he'll say that there needs to be some sort of, so a tangential plane would need to have something established to have drop over distance from. And that would be measured directly.
Yeah, the plane of reference.
Sorry, what now?
Yeah, the plane of reference is measured directly to have a drop from it.
Yeah, so it's always from a tangential plane or a plane of reference. Yes, you're right. Always leading to flat Earth, absolutely. But he's also, his second point is there is no direct observation or measurement of axial rotation. And his third is that there is no, or how would you have a high pressure gas or high pressure system adjacent to a low pressure system without a barrier? And also, how would you have gas pressure without a container? That's his third point. So he's got curvature, spin, space. So space, spin, curve.
You should consider the new talking points of measuring flat Earth from the onset and
Yeah.
pitch data.
Yeah,
You
flat,
best
flat, and
believe I
flat.
brought that up.
My responses would be, why not flat, and more flat, as opposed to not globe, not turning, no space. I mean, it's very old school, and Mickey's a great guy, so I'm not heavily criticising because he wins debates with these points, as did we. But in 2024, that's not our rhetoric. It's just, people do it differently. And we would, without sounding arrogant, that's, for us, old school, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit 2019-ish, isn't it?
Well, I would say that it's those 3 points he really developed over time. He's been out here for like 10 years. And I think QE actually helped him develop those 3 points because he takes a different approach. He's got his own style. So those are his 3 points. If anybody talks about the 3 points, they're Miggy's.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, the first one I already interjected, drop from what? A flat plane that you've got to measure. Axis, what? With respect to what? A plane of reference. If you're talking about reference frames and axial rotation, you need a plane of reference for that too. And the last one, sky vacuum, is a detachment entirely from anything flat Earth related. It's saying in the negative there isn't a space, right? There's no space as you claim there is. Well, therefore containment, but not really flat Earth related. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying that, again, it sounds so arrogant when we're like, well, we've moved on. We used to be there too. Whenever I hear that, it makes my eyes roll and it makes you cringe slightly. But it is actually the case. That is how we used to argue things. And they do sound, I almost said it, they sound very quantum eraser-esque arguments for destroying the globe. And they are effective tools for doing that. It's just not my shtick in 2024, is it?
Yeah, I like leading with flat. And then also those horizontal reference planes you mentioned are the ground that we stand on.
And you're measuring from the ground, not to the ground. So when it comes to tangents, whenever they invoke a tangent, tangents are to a point on a ball that you've assumed in this instance, but we're measuring from surface level, sea level, ground level. That's how we're measuring. We're measuring from the ground, not to the ground.
It is pretty funny if you think about it, or I know you guys have, but they say that the Earth is curving in all directions from their position on Earth, but they're also saying at the same time that the curve is actually between them and another point in the distance. So it's silly. So that wouldn't be from their point of view, the drop from their position. It would be somewhere over there.
Yeah, they're changing their perspective at will. It seems like it's a paradox, like the boat paradox on the sea. Like if you're a boat, how does it go? If you're a boat on the globe, you're at the top. So the boat, and you see another boat, it's downhill from you. But that other boat, from their perspective, you're downhill from them. So if you draw it out, they're like both uphill from each other, and it doesn't work. Reminds me of that.
Yeah, they don't seem to get that though. They swap back and forth. They're like, no, it's curving, but they're saying that it's curving from their position in all directions. But then they're like, no, the curve is between me and whatever distance. Like what?
In 2024, the curve maths that puts you at the tangent point that you're measuring from, on each side of the two boats, has a horizontal plane of reference to describe your height with respect to it, parallel with it, to give you the claim to be valley between the 2 points that have measured it individually, both requiring a flat plane to make the inference that doesn't work. So even though the claim doesn't work, paradoxically, you're describing a valley.
Exactly.
Right? But the description needs a flat earth to infer in mathematics, doesn't it? surface level and eye level.
It's like they always have to reference a flat plane every single time, and that flat plane is from their position out.
But that's the trap. The trap is that you argue about, no, you don't understand how Earth curve maths works. At which point, everyone's whistled past the fact that you need a flat Earth to start with, to start making these inferences. Height above surface level, parallel eye level. These things are a prerequisite of a flat Earth to start making these inferences that there's a point below surface level called Earth curve that you've just measured. But if you can whistle past that with a paradox that sets it up such that, no, there's just a misunderstanding here. You just don't understand the maths. It's not a valley, right? You can only do it from one person's perspective at a time. So that makes it all make sense. Well, no. What are you doing from one person's perspective? Well, you're measuring your eye parallel to the surface. That's what you're doing to get your height to start this maths. And then deriving a curve below the surface level, because you have to have horizontal as an axiom to do this maths. And horizontal in this respect is twofold. It's eye level and surface level. You can't get away from it. You need a flat Earth for this. So for me in 2024, I hear the valley paradox, and rather than arguing within the context of a globe, I want to take it straight back out again and talk about how we actually measure the surface to infer this maths that you have utilised. So do you deny the surface level that we must measure to make these claims, paradoxical or otherwise? That's my attitude in 2024. Just point out where flat Earth's needed at its genesis and stop there. Once we've measured Earth flat, that's it.
Yeah, you would love it because Amish was in there, and they were trying to invoke, or they were just trying to straw man our position and say that we claimed a dome. And it was so funny because Amish was like, I didn't claim a dome. Actually, I would say that the sky would be flat. In our relative position, we measure it flat because it's parallel to the plane of the horizon. And it was so good. I loved it.
It's got to be careful. I mean, it is. He's right, strictly speaking. The way we measure the sky is parallel to the ground, with the stars always remaining parallel at all altitudes. The angle doesn't change. But if the angle to the stars doesn't change, then are you suggesting that what we have represented is changing in altitude just for me? Well, I can't make that assertion if everyone at different altitudes has got the same angle. You know, it's representing differently or the same, depending on how you look at it, for everybody at all altitudes. They're all getting the same angle, right? So that's how we do measure the sky, but always parallel at all altitudes with the same angle makes no sense. I mean, literally, it doesn't make any sense in terms of the way things behave that we encounter, that we have physical contact with. The sky doesn't behave anything like anything we've ever experienced. So to make the step to say, well, the sky is flat, as you paraphrased, I take slight umbrage with that. Measured flat, no worries. Yeah, I can make that statement. Measured flat. It's just saying it is flat. I don't know what it is, the sky, that is. So I struggle to say in definitive terms what it actually is. I can say how we deal with it. That is to say how we measure it, parallel with the ground, with angles that remain constant at all altitudes, which is bizarre to describe.
Agreed. Yeah, it was just so great that he brought up the point. He brought it up very well, so he wouldn't have disappointed you had you been listening in.
I'm not suggesting that I would be, but by the same token,
I didn't say you would be.
It's a hard line to toe when you're pointing out to your audience, look, we're on the cutting edge of this subject. Therefore, when you're critiquing somebody who's on your own side and doing a good job, it's like, what are you doing? You don't have to be critical. It's like, yeah, well, if you're going to state that you're on the cutting edge, you're always going to find a little bit of something wrong with next man in line, because he's not doing it the way you're doing it, and the way you're doing it in the group that we do it in is on the cutting edge. So, strictly speaking, everyone else behind that knife point is behind us. Now, that's really arrogant in some ways. I've said it 3 times. But that's just the way it is, you know. So there's going to be critique. It took a while for me to get used to it when QE was doing it. Like, do you need to be? Yes, I do. Well, why? Is it necessary? Yes, it is. You want people to get better at this or not? If you don't care, then no, it's not necessary. If you do care, then you want to bring everybody's ranks up around you. And that's going to, mean that in some cases that you're going to be considered the drill sergeant. You're not going to be everyone's best friend. In fact, quite the opposite. But that's what being on the bleeding edge is.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to win his debates with those points. He's going to disprove the globe. The only problem is that he's not going to prove flat Earth, and that's the only problem in quotes, right? That I see. So,
And it's
Well,
not a
he
problem.
was bringing up the Earth being measured flat. So I would say that he did prove that the Earth is measured flat, but also he has that approach where, well, I don't know. I would let Amish speak for himself. I would
Sure,
say
sure,
that, from my point of
and
view,
just what it sounds like, So I wasn't there either. I mean, so
true. True. I would say, from my point of view, he made a very good point, and it touched on what I would want to convey to whomever is talking on the globe side, or the audience listening. So he was doing a very good job at conveying the message in the aspect of the message we want to send out, that the Earth is measured flat. He's got his own approach. Everybody's got their own style and zhuzh to it. So the argument is kind of fun. It's fun to listen to other people argue it and have their way of navigating the whatever the onslaught is of globers, or what Alpha calls, or Miggy calls, the esoteric flat earthers. We're combating everyone. The claims of the esoteric flat earthers, we were like, we're not them. They claim this. We don't claim that. We stick to things that you can prove, what you know and what you can prove. So that's a good stance for me, because I'm not as good as all of you. You've been doing this a lot longer than me. I'm so new to this. I'm barely 2 years into this, so I'm still learning everything. So I got a lot to learn and a good ways to go.
Sure. But
plus we have the advantage of the male brain. So I'm just kidding. Joke.
it takes a couple of years for the people
That may be true, actually.
for the people who are already here. It takes them a couple of years to get comfortable with some of the newer arguments. And the way that they become comfortable is hearing them be effective. So initially, you might cast your mind back 12 months when I started saying, let's just say it like it is, Earth's measured flat, and put it in that terms. Internally, before it even started to put it out as like, this is how we should be arguing, this we do now, there's no uncertain terms in the discussion we've just had, right? Well, you get Brian and a few of the internal panel members going, I don't like the phrasing of this. This seems wrong. I don't like this. Why not? I don't know. Because it seems like it's incorrect. Well, why? I don't know. let's discuss it then. So internally we discuss it. Once we're all in agreement and all our objections have been overcome, then it's sort of tossed out to the audience. No, we're all in agreement with this now. This is the rhetoric that we are going to be going forward with when we reach New Year 24, when we were in 23, right? And then the audience braces against it. No, that's not the right order. Some of the people who are paying close attention to us because they're also videographers start to brace against it. And then the audience start to brace it. And they start putting their objections. And the same process goes, which takes 2 or 3 months. Then we're, 3, 4, 5 months into 2024, saying it over and over again daily into different servers, preaching exactly that to the server that we decided or ended up being in as our favourite when we went through 2 or 3 of, ancillary servers, other people's servers. So we're preaching the message. Now we're at the tail end of 2024, and we're comfortable just talking about it like it is. There's no discussion amongst us about whether or not this is right or wrong. There's a unified message that goes out. If you listen to QE show and they're talking about how Earth's measured flat, it's not being used to punctuate stuff. It's just part of the story now. So when people see that it's just part of the story, it's not this new information that, it could be wrong. I don't necessarily want to jump on the bandwagon just yet. That's all out the window now. Everyone appreciates our message. There is no coming back from it. We're now undercutting or undermining our opponents' positions with respect to Antarctica by presenting flat Earth measurements, pitch data. So there's no ambiguity. It's moving forward exactly as we said it would. It's just the comfort level of the people who are listening that is, on a upward scale, on a very slow rise. But what is it, 12, 13, 14 months into us actually saying Earth is measured flat, will the audience start to come around to it? Halfway through 2025 is when everyone will be completely comfortable with it. There'll be no pushback. Everyone will understand the arguments. The data will be a bit more prevalent and widespread. And
That's something.
Go on.
Oh, that's something else that I wanted to bring up. We covered the flight data from San Francisco to Honolulu in that space. We covered, and Amish was able to take control of that argument so well that I was happy. I was so happy about it. So I was obviously able to convey like the modus tollens for it also, but he was able to bring up a lot of data that, that most aren't privy to. He's absolutely studied a lot of that data besides just the pitch. And I shared the presentation that Brian did on that space. There's like a nest in the space where you can share information. And I shared the presentation of Brian's for the pitch data. So the message is out there. I know you guys say, and you're harping on other flat earthers for not even knowing about this. Now they don't have an excuse on X, at least, because those people heard the data and what we had to present with it on top of that. So it's out there, at least in that arena, so they can use it if they need to.
Yeah, because of the censorship, it's got to the point where we have to be as grassroots as it can possibly be. It is absolutely the case that my channel, especially, I can see it statistically, grows as a direct consequence of the people who are in staunch support of what we do. Therefore, we'll share the show regularly and we'll, share links, share information, and gather up information and pass it on. So it's nice to have a good community like that, right? A tight community where everyone's focused. Not necessarily the biggest community, but having fly-by-night, not really that interested, half interested. They'll glaze over the subject matter and then move on to the next video for entertainment purposes. Yes, I obviously would like those people here because it would help my ad revenue, but by the same token, I much prefer having a really dedicated community that are all really genned up on the subject. And you can see it in the comments. People are. The community here, QE, Ballbusters, Nathan Oakley 1980, are right on top of it. We know how to argue this stuff, even if you're not on the panel, you know what I mean? If you're not necessarily interacting on Discord, if you're just an audience member, you still get a good idea how to argue this stuff, to the point where next holiday season when you're around the table and someone says, aren't you a flat earther? And you go, yeah, it's no big deal. You're like, what do you mean no big deal? That's crazy. And you're like, nah, Earth's measured flat. That's how the globe's created for the religion that you have. Shutting the conversation down quite quickly. As opposed to, yeah, there's a dome. There might be a ice wall lands that are beyond where we've... Oh, God. The people around you roll their eyes and think you're an idiot.
I just realized that Amish is here in the Discord listening to us. So always good to see you, brother. And always good to have you on our side. And just good to have you anyways, because you're a wealth of knowledge and you've got skills, brother.
Konnichiwa.
Good day to everyone.
Konnichiwa.
Japanese for hello. You uncultured fool. Come on.
I know what it means. Yes, okay, very good. Should we run through housekeeping questions? We haven't done a full barrage of housekeeping questions for quite some time. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
You'll be standing on a horizontal plane and you're looking at the horizon, and the word horizontal is derived from horizon. It means zero slope. You'd need some slope for some curve.
The inference of curve would come from deriving it, measuring Earth flat as a horizontal plane of reference, an eye-level parallel with it. Questions are very different in 2024.
Say flat.
Yeah, you need flat Earth to assert you've got Earth curvature below surface level. Absolutely. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety, of course?
Access from a horizontal plane.
Come again?
I said the only axis I know would be on a horizontal plane, but I know that there's no way to detect that.
Correct. So what you're suggesting is to assert that you've got an axis to describe a rotational anything. You need a plane of reference to do it. To describe the axis, you need a plane of reference. You'll need a flat Earth for that. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You'd measure that from horizontal. That much I know. But I don't think I have a height, because altitude is a special case in celestial navigation that isn't a height but an angle.
Yeah, you can measure an angle to the sun, but that won't give you its height exactly. And you can't infer distance without extrapolation. And the extrapolation we do have has come from flat plane measurements of angles to the celestial bodies to infer spherical radial values, and then put those radial values in motion around a sun that has its scale given by Kepler and its size given by Huygens. Well, you'll need a flat plane for that distance to the sun. Meanwhile, we wouldn't infer that you can measure anything in regards to its altitude. The angle remains the same as you raise in elevation. You can't get its height, it's ludicrous. It's not smashing into the horizon when it reaches zero as a measurement. Stupid. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
That's a big old goose egg.
No? What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Goose egg.
Yeah, there's nothing.
No science for the globe. Shocking.
It's on the way.
It'll be here next
Just
week.
wait.
It's in the post.
Just wait. It'll be in the future, you know?
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Elevation is from level. Level is from flat. So no.
Yeah, that'd be quite the feat.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
Falsified with the black swan.
Black swan.
I saw it in an orthographic view.
You saw what? Radial value? Where was it measured?
Oh no, I'm
Horizontal.
not silly enough to reify it, but I saw it in maths.
Yeah, but where did they get that maths from?
Sea level.
Flat plane derivation of an angle to Polaris. Need a flat Earth for that radial value. Any evidence you can
For
have?
all,
Go on.
sorry. I said for all the goose eggs, you'd think that their goose is cooked.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Gas fills space unless contained. That's just science. You'd deny science if you wanted anything else.
Outer space, the sky vacuum, as claimed in the heliocentric paradigm, is fake. Gas-filled space, eh?
Only if space is a vacuum
What about any evidence
of
of a
any sort.
self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You need a sphere for that first, and all they have is flat Earth.
Any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe?
Pitch is just up and down from horizontal, so no.
Well, that pretty much covers it. All 9. So yeah, we're up to 9 housekeeping questions now. Most recent being, any evidence you can have pitch data on a globe? I was discussing this in the pre-show. I saw it being used to good effect in the 24/7 Discord server this morning. I'm pretty sure it was a replay, but it can't be a very old replay because they're presenting pitch data. Like the pitch data. We'll call it Brian's pitch data just so we know which one we're referring to. I'm sure more will follow. People will be digging it out now. Oh, well, I can take credit for it if I can get a different set of pitch data that's 3 hours long. Then it'll be my pitch data. But for now, we're going to call it Brian's pitch data. Why are we calling it Brian's pitch data? Because he was chasing after it for years, being told by people like Wolfie6020 that it would cost $100,000 to acquire the information. Well, what do you know? It's out there for free from the NTSB when they investigate air crash, collisions, disasters, crashes, or engine failures. So in this instance, the pitch data that we have is 2 hours. Coincidentally, the exact example time that would be given by QE, Brian, and Adam in their different examples with regards to flight, all of which tie into the pitch data, which shows a flat Earth being measured for the duration of the flight. Well, not for the duration of the flight, for 2 hours of the flight until one of the engines explodes and there's no loss of life. Hence, the pitch data in this instance has no grieving widows attached to it, let's just put it that way. But there will be others that have got engine failures, gear failures, things like that, where the planes have to return after a longer than 2 hour duration of uninterrupted flight across a flat plane, which is what we're going to call Brian's pitch data.
We're only doing that because he presented this beautiful presentation of that on QE's live stream. But yeah, we can call it Brian's.
Sure, but
I did give credit to Brian's logic, by the way, when we were talking about it on X earlier.
Well, he deserves it. He's been chasing it around for so long. And for the whole time that he's been chasing it from our opponents, he's been making an argument in regards to lift anyway, which is, it ties in, but it's separate. It's a separate example. It's the same with Adam in terms of the orientation of the flight itself. Well, if you look at these individual claims, up until the point that we had pitch data, I liked them. They're good logical arguments. I'm not suggesting that they're not good. It's just perhaps it's through laziness. I don't want to offer up a logical consistency only as an argument. But the second there was documented proof of it, I'm all for it, right? I was right on that bandwagon immediately saying it was the best proof ever. Because it is. It affirms every single one of their logical consistencies. When you've got three all coming from different aspects, and then tie it back into the actual documentation. Life and death documentation. You know, from governing bodies that are investigating potentially criminal activity if something goes wrong and someone's done something wrong. People do go to jail as a result of NTSB inquiries. So it's no small, you know, insignificant party that's giving us this information. It's got the NTSB stamp on the top of it. It's not like it's contestable either. It's not like anyone's going to argue. When I had the 24/7 discussion about it, they're like, where's the globe indicator in the plane? And the guy's like, there isn't one. You're like, yeah, damn straight there ain't. That's the end of this argument. Earth's measured flat. I got a couple of videos to choose from. So you Sensual that posted these. Got
This morning, yeah.
Godfrey, I can't see the rest of his name. And one from Biblical Studies, I can assume it is. Neither of which are particularly appealing from the first 11 seconds of each that I watched, if I'm honest. I never like them when we first
just
get
chit-chat then.
Yeah, we can chit-chat a bit longer. Why, have you got something you want to talk about?
Not particularly, but if you're not in the mood for it, then it's the same old stuff, to be honest, in those videos. But it's just new. That's the only reason why I posted them. Okay.
Neil contacted me over the weekend, in case anybody's wondering where our regular Neil Constantino panel member is. He's been in a fairly horrendous car accident. The car flipped, and he's under the impression he's broken his back. He's also crushed his hand, and he's definitely not in any fit state to be on the show. So he contacted me and 10th, before presumably passing out in an ambulance. Why he contacted me and 10th specifically, I don't know. But maybe it's because I did what I did. I don't know. I'm not going to cast aspersions in terms of Neil's motivation, but I know he's very hard up, and I know why he was making that journey. He would have been making it away from home to work to feed his family, and back home to being the company of his wife for an anniversary, which he didn't make. So as a consequence, I made a video for members only, and eventually, when I finally figured out how to get a link that would actually function for PayPal, made it public. So there's a video in the list of videos on the homepage of this channel, Nathan Oakley 1980s homepage. If you just go to videos, one before this is a video just explaining exactly that. It's very short. It just says Neil's been in an accident. Please help him out financially. And I've put a link to his PayPal, which is the best I could cobble together without his assistance. So getting someone else's share link from PayPal was actually very difficult. I tried to get his Cash App link, same thing. It was almost impossible. I can kind of understand why, but eventually we've managed to cobble a link together, so it is relatively easy to click on a link and give Neil money. But he's going to be screwed. He's the main breadwinner for his family, and he's now completely out of commission, which will cause financial hardship for him and his family. Hence me immediately making a video saying, give him money. Just give Neil money. And if people are like, what can I do? I'll pray for him. And that's all well and good. His family's going to be financially screwed while he's out of commission to some degree or another. So even if it's temporary, you know, a small amount of money at the first stages of financial disaster are always the most helpful. So nobody's expecting you to suddenly become Neil's bread and butter from here on forth, but I'm sure he would appreciate some upfront cash from people who are sympathetic to the fact he's just been in a severe accident. And I know why he's in a severe accident. He's driving huge distances to go to places that have got work for him, and then driving huge distances to do the family bit. So, you know, it's one of those things. He's overstrained himself and ended up in a wreck, written his car off. At the very least, he's going to need to replace that if he indeed walks again, which at this point doesn't sound particularly likely, given that he sent me a couple of messages since. And yeah, he's not walking. He's incapable of moving his legs, and his hand's bust up. So that's Neil's situation, in case you were wondering. As I say, please support him financially. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. That's
Keep him
bad
in your
news out of the way.
prayers.
Say again?
Keep him in your prayers for any of those who can't, of course.
Yeah, and his family, you know, because his family are going to be pretty hard up as a result of this. So, but not very good. You know, Neil's worked his ass off for the last couple of years, doing everything from DoorDash to building work, and he's, you know, in his 60s. So, anyway, that's one of those.
Well, he's going to be all right. I know that for a fact because he's a man of God. So he's got no worries on that aspect. He may need a little bit of support from people that would support him. So that would be amazing if anyone can. But also, prayers can only help.
Yeah, and on the upside, in the meantime, we'll have a bit more peace and quiet and less audio chaos.
Yeah,
So we all benefit.
The sympathy is short-lived for Neil. Yeah, but in all seriousness, as much as we give Neil grief, he's one of us, and you know he's going to be extremely missed while he's unwell and in our thoughts. Same as 10th Man when he was, you know, in the process of losing a family member through ill health, and you know you don't just stop thinking about these people. As much as I've said over the years, I don't care. You know, you come or you don't. It's like no, you do become very attached to the people around you when they're regulars. Maybe not Brian.
Oh man. All of you guys are precious.
Yeah, it's not good news. It's just I didn't want to skirt past it because there's going to be people who have already seen that video, and I know several people are saying, oh, I've sent him $100 or I've sent him $10 or whatever, you know, large and small quantities, and you're like, yeah, I know he'll have been traveling for maybe a $300 or $400 job, doing huge numbers of miles, sleeping on horrible floors. You know, it's a miserable time for Neil. So it'll cheer him up immensely if he just sees cash in his PayPal and goes, oh, well, at least that's something less to worry about while I'm being carted around in people's, you know, backs of cars and with my hand all strapped up and my back all strapped up. So anyway, yeah, I'm sure his well wishes will be appreciated, and indeed any cash contributions will be even more appreciated. So there's a link going by anyway from Divergent Droid in the live stream chat if you did want to hit him up on PayPal. You can leave him a little message as well if you did want to contact Neil and say how you're doing. The way you do it is by sending him money, because that's how you send him a message, because it's got a message section in the PayPal. So there you go. Anyway, moving on from Neil's devastating tragedy, I will keep you updated in that regard as I get more information.
I know from my own back injury, that it was like 6 to 8 weeks. So
Yeah, I feel a bit bad moaning about my toothache that's still persisting, given that he's just been in a severe car wreck.
And knowing this community, he'll learn more from us than he will from his employer.
I would hope that was the case.
toothache is no joke, by
It's
the
no-
way.
it
I
was-
would I would never discount a toothache. I've had a vertebrae, my sternum, and a rib cracked all at the same time, and I still would say I would never wish a toothache on anyone.
I watched an interview with 50 Cent. He was talking about getting shot 6 times, or however many times it was. And they're like, how painful was it? He says, compared to my toothache when I had to have root canal, that was more painful. And I remember thinking when the dentist said to me, how painful is it? I went, he says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how painful? I said, 10. There are points where it is like pass out, blackout, painful to the point where you cannot tolerate it. You know, for not all the time, don't get me wrong, but, you know, you move the wrong way or you drink something the wrong way and suddenly you're spitting water out and screaming. You're like, no, it's absolutely excruciating.
Yeah, you're incapacitated with a toothache pain because it's in your head. It's not something that you can just like groan and move on. Like, no, it's like in your head. Like you have to stop or you might faint or pass out.
But Adam was telling me that there was someone in this community.
Yeah,
I
and
forget who.
you can't sleep with it either.
That's the
Like
biggest problem.
nighttime's always the worst.
Absolutely. As much as you've just been moaning about Neil, he's in a much worse state than I am. That's the biggest problem. I'm absolutely run down because I can't sleep. So this morning, the only reason I'm talking about 24/7 is because I was up at 5 in the morning. So I'm sat here going, oh, looking at my iPad going, what can I watch? There's only so many things you can watch about engines and cars. And then you're like, oh, 24/7's on. So I bung that on and, you know, it takes your mind off it temporarily. And I'm like, this isn't taking my mind off enough. I need to go in and shout at somebody. So I tried to join and it must have been a replay because there was no one in there in the server, like 24/7 Discord, which isn't surprising at 5 a.m. UK time.
Well, the 24/7 bot that was recording on YouTube, if that's what you were watching it on, was in Alpha Veritas's X space.
I don't know what that means.
That he had the bot that records it on YouTube in the space. Like he can put the bot in there and record it because space or X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, has been deleting his spaces that he's recorded so far because he's on episode like 15 today. And they have scrubbed a lot of his episodes. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You can tell if you go back through and you want to go listen to them again. They're scrubbed. They're not there. You can't go and listen to them. So what if you were listening to 24/7 on YouTube, you were listening to us on space.
Oh, okay. I still don't fully understand, but I'm sure someone will explain it to me later.
Okay, sure. I thought I explained it well. I don't
Yeah, you
know.
explained it once. I was listening in when we were recording the pre-show, and I wasn't necessarily talking to you. I was getting coffee. Well, I was listening in the background while you were explaining that earlier this morning, right?
Right, yeah. We were in there. You might have heard me because I was a co-host on the space, so I was popping up a lot.
Fair enough. The globe character was MBMO or MBMO. I can't remember exactly what the initials were, something like that.
Oh, nope, then that wasn't it. That was in politics, probably.
I don't know. It's on the 24/7 YouTube channel, and the bot that goes by in the chat spammed the link to join. I was like, oh, well, why not? That'll definitely take my mind off things.
Yeah, if it didn't say Alpha Veritas on the main screen, then it wasn't the X space. But I know that the bot was in the space, so that means that it was recording on YouTube.
Right. But like I was saying in the pre-show, it's always going to be the case that the standards that we apply here will seem overly critical of somebody that's like, I've been listening to your show for years, and I'm arguing for gas pressure without a container, and you're moaning about me. Why are you moaning? Like, well, because you should be on the front foot talking about Earth being measured flat. how Earth isn't globe-shaped or space is fake is great for destroying the globe, but I'm now trying to personally downplay this whole situation. People are scared of change. So if you say, it's no big deal, you know, the globe came from the flat Earth measurements that we've always been using, nothing's going to change, it's not that serious. Just Earth's measured flat, that's all. It always was, though. Nothing's going to change. Don't fear flat Earth. But yeah, that's the message I want to get across in 2025. So 2024, Earth's measured flat. 2025, it's not that big a deal. Not that much is going to change. When people, and initially this used to really annoy me. What difference does it make? Who cares? I've still got to go to work tomorrow. Well, I'd like to lean into that moving into 2025. Yeah, you're right. Doesn't really change anything. It was always measured flat and always will be. You can create religions and star tracking methodologies with mathematics from those measurements, and that's where the globe came from. Now, if you want to believe in that, it's obviously entirely up to you. You're entitled to your belief. But you're never going to trump the way that Earth's measured, flat, and always was and always will be.
Yeah, usually that question comes in instead of a concession. So somebody doesn't have the humility to concede that they've lost the argument. So they try to undermine the argument.
With what?
With the fact that to them it doesn't matter anyway because they have to go to work anyway.
Yeah, oh, I see what you mean. Yes. I was thinking, oh, I've got my anti-flat Earth head on. You're talking normies now, like in my example. Yeah, your normies can say, here, yes, what difference does it make? But that, to me, is actually one step on from, no, I must instinctually defend my religion of a globe. You must be one of those idiots. The person who says, well, what difference does it make? Is at least saying, well, if I'm wrong about what I understood it to be, does this, on quick assessment, actually change what I'll be doing tomorrow? In the short term, no. You're like, well, why not agree? No, it won't. Yeah, you will still go to work tomorrow. But you'll go to work tomorrow knowing that space is fake and that there is no ball up until 2024. Now, in 2024, you'll go to work the following day knowing that Earth's measured flat.
With a smile on your face and a pep in your step.
Maybe. But if you're that guy that's like, what difference does it make? You know, nothing, you're just expanding your knowledge. How the religion of the globe came to fruition was with those flat Earth measurements. You're just more enlightened now. So will anything change tomorrow? No, you're just a bit more enlightened about where the majority of the Western world's religion came from in terms of its measurements. From a flat Earth. Does it change anything? No, it's just a bit of trivia, if you like. Doesn't make that much difference. It's not that serious. Earth was always flat. Brian doesn't like this. He's saying it's not that big a deal, it's not that serious. So far, he's the only person that's gone, no, I don't like that. But then again, Brian's just, you know, argumentative and disagreeable.
You know, I think that Brian would be appreciative that many of us downloaded that incident report because apparently, let me read this off because Amish is the one who been keeping tabs on it.
You there, Amish?
He's in the Discord. He can't mic up or anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so their website replaced a hyperlink to a different search. I'm reading verbatim his message. Their website replaced a hyperlink to a different search engine page where they stripped out dockets for cases and invited the researcher to email an NTSB rep to obtain them. Dockets being report data like the CSV spreadsheet of flight recorder data and other reports that we obtained previously. They also removed this exact incident report from appearing in search results while other cases still show up. Luckily, the old search page still exists with the dockets and this case. It's buried deep in the NTSB website, but it's there. Docket data is still there and linked as is the search result for this particular case that we talk about.
Of course. They want to make it more difficult to show Earth's measured flat. Makes perfect sense. We're living in a world of control, and they don't want you knowing it's flat. Why do you think we're censored? So the information we use to show it's measured flat is everywhere. And as time progresses, we'll be showing that more and more often. This is just one example. The floodgates have already opened. We've already figured out the world is flat. Therefore, all of the measurements will always necessitate that flat plane of reference without exception. So trying to plug the floodgates, they're pissing in the wind, aren't they? Nah, we already know it's measured flat. There's plenty of measurements of Earth, and they'll all show the same thing. There aren't any exceptions. So what are you going to do when we go to the next example of railways across vast spans of flat ground? You're going to start hiding that data? Yeah, go ahead. Who cares? We already know. Way past that. Yeah? Shutting people like us into a little corner is the best they can do. Yeah? That's why it's so important. I was saying this in the pre-show, right? It just focuses the actual community you do end up with. So the reason this show still succeeds and still grows is because people do actually hit the share button. There's a reason there's almost 100 people watching regularly. Today, 94 people. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Shout out to Adam Meakin, who's just spammed the NTSB data link for an easy access. If you want to grab it before it disappears, censored into oblivion, down the memory hole it goes. That just tells me they're terrified of us. Quick, we need to plug this up. Oh, those flat earthers show how flat it is. They are terrified of us. Yeah? That's why they try and control us with ridicule. They're dangerous, we really are. Yeah? That's what this is. Very telling.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Brian.
Sensual. I don't know. I have a lot of background
Hello,
noise
Brian.
at a train station, yeah. Flatsy, were you just saying that they're actually trying to hide that data now?
Yes.
Yes, but also it doesn't matter because a lot of us already downloaded it. So it's our own personal data now that we can reference. And people can still find it. It's just buried. So using what we already downloaded, they could find it.
You know, I didn't think they would be so stupid as to do that. Not only does that validate that they know what that proves, but it makes no sense to hide it. Whoever decided to hide it, they made a bad choice because hiding that, just leaving it out in the open would be a better move, I would say, on their part. That's a worse move.
Well, let's leave them.
The
Let's
means
leave
of
them with the benefit of the doubt.
It's always been the way
Say-
that the way they control the minds of the public is through the media. We are the media. Now, if we are accessing other published data, that's strictly speaking in the same category as us. Well, they can control it. They can remove it and bury it, make it hard to find. So they will. You're saying, the best thing to leave in the open. Maybe, but only if we were widespread. So if we had a nice, huge community, if this video was going out, instead of 200 people, it was going out to 10,000 people, just for the sake of argument, then yeah, that would make a difference. Because then it's you trying to hide the evidence, and it's really glaring if there's lots of people with their eyes on it. But there aren't lots of people with their eyes on it, are there? So us saying, look, they're hiding it. Everyone around just, yeah. And if you ask an anti-flat earther who has more than enough sway because they outnumber us through pure financial, incentive. If you incentivize anti-flat earthism, it will become prevalent because it's profitable. So that we're outnumbered. So when we say pitch data, and some anti-flatty comes along and says, they're just not accounting for Earth curve in the pitch data, idiots. Then cursory watcher goes, yeah, that makes sense to me. They're just not accounting for the Earth curve that I already know we're on. And they get on with their day. As opposed to, look, this next man isn't pointing out that flatties don't know that they haven't accounted for Earth curve, which isn't existent in the flat Earth proving data. They're actually trying to hide and suppress the data. They're trying to hide it from it. Would, everyone would go nuts. That's why they have to keep us small. So I used to describe it as patching in the cracks, right, in the concrete. We're stamping up and down on weak concrete, making cracks, showing how shoddy it is. Well, they go, great. We'll keep you nice and isolated in a small group so that when you're walking around the streets at 3 a.m. with no one watching, stamping on this concrete, we can come along shortly after and patch it all in with a trowel so no one notices. As long as they don't make enough noise while they're jumping up and down on the concrete, then the patchwork no one gives a toss about. As long as they can carry on walking up and down on the concrete. As long as the pavement still functions as a pavement, no one cares how many cracks it's got in it. We're pointing out the cracks. They're filling them in.
Well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Say just because their incident reports keep piling up, so they have to suppress that docket or that docket of information from that time frame and replace it with another time frame docket to be more prevalent. They could always say that, they would be like, oh, well, that's suppressed because we have a whole new docket of information from this time frame that needs to be prevalent over that because that's in the past.
Nah.
In 2018, right?
No, no. When it comes to no. The reason I say no is because when it comes to this particular data set, it's the only data set that's relevant. Was the plane in the air? Yeah. Well, they give us a toss. Did the plane stay in the air? No, it went from point A in the air to point B on the ground. Well, we're going to need to know exactly how that process took place. So what data is relevant in regards to that? Well, pitch
that
data.
All instruments were working properly.
Right,
Sorry.
but what's all of the data? But in this case, we're referencing pitch for our argument with respect to a plane. I know you've said it's with respect to the chord line of the wings as opposed to the nose itself, but regardless, we're pointing at that flat.
Well, no, the pitch would be, I'm not sure if they...
This detail's not important.
The pitch would...
This is majoring on the minors. Yeah, the important bit is all of the data sets are with respect to a plane, a horizontal plane of reference, all of them. Now, if you're going to try and suppress it, what are you going to do? Start putting PZX triangles in respect to how high off the ground you are when you're crashing into it. No, someone's going to get a bit fussy about that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of proud in a way that we've put out something that they've actively had to suppress. I knew that all the opposition were going to be contacting them. I have no doubt the likes of Wolfie and them were on the case, onto the NTSB. But it's stupid. There's nothing they can do. The data is the data. You can't put out different pitch data. Pitch is in relation to horizontal. It can't be in relation to anything else. So when they put out all flight data, because that's not the only data I got, but that's just the one that we're using. But the point being is it doesn't matter, is that all data has to be like that. That's the only way the data can be because of what it has to be, what the plane does, and how it has to do it, and that's the end of that. So them trying to suppress it is, I understand that was a good patch from you, Nathan. The fact that we're small in numbers means that they can hide it. But that can only happen for so long because, as Flatsy said, lots of people have shared it. So it's turning up in places that we don't even know about.
I gave you credit. I gave you credit, Brian. And I also posted your presentation on Twitter in space. Alpha. Well, Miggy, Miggy. I keep saying Alpha Veritas because that's his name now. So just saying. His space that he had, we brought up that pitch data and we went through it. And I had Amish, who's in the Discord right now. He can't mic up, but he helped me go through it. And I went through the modus tollens that QE came up with the aircraft flying at 500 miles per hour for 1,000 miles for 2 hours, and how much curvature would need to be negotiated in that time frame. And he also brought up a really good point that there would need to be he said 15 degrees of a difference in the pitch data, but he did correct himself. He said 14.4 degrees would have had to have been negotiated with the pitch data to be able to cover that kind of curvature.
Miles. Yeah, because it's 7.24 for every 2,500 miles, something like that. 7.24. So you're talking, 14.4 or 14.5 of degrees over 1,000. That's only 1,000 miles. I mean, if you're flying from London to LA, that's several thousand miles. I think it's 3,000 or something like that. That'll be 3 times that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. 1,000 is a good number, you know. Yeah.
Right, but that's the way that we argued your for your presentation. We gave the presentation, but we gave a very good summary of it on that space. So we we did it justice for you. But I would say that I give credit to Amish for really stepping up and coming in and really nailing the point in. So that was good.
Quick shout out to the 100 people watching. Massive thank you to all of you. Smash the share button. Warm welcome if you've just joined us. Please share the show if you've not done so already. At the other end of the extreme, Brian, I was talking about this before you got here on 24/7. The discussion was nothing to do with this subject, right? This brings a massive smile to my face. The discussion on the topic, on the table that I was listening to in Flat Earth 24/7 was about refraction and Earth curve. And from the sidelines, someone just comes in and slaps down pitch data in the middle of the discussion and just goes, you know, when I've been describing like, bosh, pitch data, there you go, done. This guy did that. It was epic. I wanted to join to tell him congratulations, to say, oh, mate, that's just how it should be done. Because he was like, because they're talking about Earth curve, they're arguing about refraction. He goes, do you see this piece of information in the live stream chat? And it was MBMO or Embo or whatever he's called. Is that guy?
Oh, Embo, yeah.
Yeah. The guy takes it from that to, look at this data. He's like, yeah. He's like, where's your globometer on the plane? It's like, there ain't one. It's like, it was the end of the discussion. And props to you and Amish, right? And I get all kudos to you if you can argue it in a coherent way and put it across in a presentation style. But there is something to be said for I can't even credit the guy from this morning. I was too frazzled. It was too early. It was too early in the morning to remember. I'm really sorry. If you're that guy, props. But he just slapped it on the desk, went, bosh, there you go, Earth's motion flat. And I was like, yes. Because I was so frustrated. I'm in the chat going, they're arguing about Earth curve and the maths uses a horizontal plane. It's parallel with eye level. That's my kind of frustration from the chat. Until this guy goes, bosh. There you go, pitch data. It was great.
Yeah, because it cuts directly through the weed and straight to the point. Is horizontal a circle or is it a straight line? Now, we all know horizontal is a straight line. That's the end of that. All other arguments go completely out the window immediately. And that's what's so good about it.
Yeah, Caprica Soul. Caprica Soul's in the chat. Hold on, Caprica Soul's got it right. He says, hold my beer. Exactly. So someone in the sidelines is hearing this conversation about bloody refraction and Earth curve derived from surface level that's not getting a mention, and it's annoying me. And he just goes to the next man, hold my beer. Bosh! Pitch data.
Well, I just want to say thanks to Flatsy and Amish and Miggy for doing that. And I hope it's not my. It's okay. I got it after a lot of whinging. I got it. I actually got a Glover to get it for me, but it's for everyone. It's for everyone. So it's not exclusively mine. My idea. I push the idea. I go with that much. But at the end of the day,
sure, buddy, we don't believe you.
Fair enough. Anyway, either way, I'm happy it's getting out there, and I'm actually happy to hear that they've tried to suppress it. That the NTSB have actually, we've actually had an effect on the NTSB. That's pretty interesting.
You got full props from me earlier, actually, Brian. I was calling the pitch data Brian's pitch data, because like the Black Swan is the original wibbly wobbly crane one, the one that entrapped them all into saying refraction. That's the Black Swan in terms of imagery. Well, there'll be plenty of data. Pitch data will become more and more prevalent. People will be trying to outshine you, right? But the original will, in my opinion, always get known as Brian's pitch data. I realise you got it from some Glober, but it's the fact that you were frustrated and chasing it down, telling people this will cost 100 grand, repeating the lies that you were told. And some baller has heard that and gone, I can get you pitch data. It doesn't cost 100 grand. You know, just to try and, it's kind of anti-flat earthism on its head. You're telling him it costs 100 grand and you can't get it to prove your point. And because he's heard you say it, Brian, he's gone into anti-flat earth mode. I must prove this flat earther wrong. You're like, but you realise the reason he's telling you it's costing 100 grand is because people like Wolfie are trying to stop him getting it.
Well, that's the thing, you see. Wolfie spent 8 years now. He's been since 2016 in this argument. It's almost 2025. So in about 6 weeks' time or whatever, he's going to be around kind of 9 years. And in all that time, he made no attempt to get that data. Now, he could have got it. Now, he's not the only one. There was Trevor Austin and others. But he's the one out here. He's the first one out here on their side. And he came at us the hardest with his channel and whatever else. And in all those years, he never got it. And I was asking him to get it for years. Then Flatside was asking him then. Right? Flatside got on that train because Flatside, and I think Anthony might have got on that train as well, Sleeping Warrior, and others. So, I mean, like that should have been here years ago. If it meant nothing, he should have got it. You know what I mean? But it meant everything. That's why he didn't get it. You know.
It's not that if it meant
nothing. But the lad got it for me. Just on your point. Sorry.
Go on.
Just on your point. The lad that got it for me, a lad called Steve. His YouTube name is Buck Sodbuster. I don't think he realised what he was getting, because when he got it for me, he said, "Look, you can probably read this. I can't read it. I don't know what's going on there." He said, "You know a bit more about it than I do." And I actually didn't. I actually thought at that stage he was a flat earther. I even talked to him on the phone. I think I talked to him on the phone at one point. And it's like I only found out then he wasn't on our side. He was on the opposition side. I don't think he realised what he was getting. I don't think he did. But he was totally honest about it. I told him, "You know what you're giving me?" He said, "Yeah." And he didn't hide that and gave me everything. What can I say? Like, I mean, for what? He's after really helping us out, whether he wanted to or not.
It's just if you know, you realise. I mean, I can't believe I didn't figure it out, because I like watching air crash investigation videos. And while I couldn't tell you a specific video that showed pitch data on screen, I would imagine that at some point in some of the videos, they're going to be referencing this type of information because they're getting their information from the NTSB. So at some point, I haven't put two and two together and gone, well, surely the NTSB will have it, because it just hasn't occurred to me. But if it hasn't occurred to you and it has occurred to him and he's like, yeah, no, I'm giving you just to know what I'm reading, he doesn't know necessarily the implications of what giving it you means and why it would necessitate someone like Wolfie going, nah, it costs 100 grand. Nah, very expensive. You'd have to do a fundraiser to get that sort of information. They don't publish that. Why would airlines give you that? Well, maybe the airlines wouldn't give you that. Maybe it's not something that's up for sale, but in terms of crash investigation, it's extremely useful and they publish it publicly. If you don't know, you don't know.
Well, they're hiding it now.
Well, yeah. It does amuse me. Like I say, going forward, if you're going to convince the world that they're actually on a ball, then you have to censor that sort of information. You know, it seems obvious now. You know, it also seems a little bit more obvious that if you're going to have this subject prevalent in the mind's eye of the audience, it can only be your version of what this subject represents. And that is ice walls and ponds in puddles and domes and azimuthal equidistant projections and arguing about how the Earth isn't a sphere. That's how you need this subject to be in the mind's eye of the public. So you definitely don't need what we're doing. Showing how Earth is actually measured is something that needs heavy censorship. And what needs heavy promotion initially is beast of nonsense. That needs to be out there as heavily as it possibly can be. And it's kept our counterparts in a mild degree of success, even after censorship. If you can talk feast of nonsense, then, you know, you're worthy of putting in front of anti-flat earthers, and you'll work your way to a certain degree of success in the flat Earth ranks. Would you not agree?
Say that again, sorry?
I'm suggesting that if you've got stooges, that is to say, not knowing, useful idiots is probably a better term, right? If there's a financial motivation to punting the feast of nonsense, then you will do what makes you successful. Any animal does whatever it's done in the past that has been successful. So if you've made videos about ether, ice walls, domes, maps that are azimuthal, if you've done that and it's been moderately successful, you'll just continue to do that. Yeah? There's very few people that will sit around and do, again, blow my own trumpet too much, but sit around and assess going against the grain, like with Bob Nodell. When he was alive, I went on Globebusters to say, you've come about this axial rotation argument incorrectly. Now, that won me no favours. It didn't grow my audience. It wasn't going to get me commercial success. But to assess it in those terms is to refine your argument and do better in terms of your specialist subject. But it goes against the grain that will get promoted within the YouTube algorithm. At the time, we were still favoured. We weren't censored. So, for me, incredibly detrimental. But that sting wore off as the censorship ramped up unilaterally across all flat Earth playing fields if you're on the flat Earth side, as we well know. But what I'm saying is, if you're going with the grain, then there's a good chance that that grain's been put there for you to go along with. In this case, the feast of nonsense. So your Gerrans, your Daves, your typical flat earther that might have a modicum of memorability or knowability, they can be heard of. They're just peddling the feast of nonsense because they're useful idiots at that point. That's what's made them successful to this point, so they've continued doing it. And when we come along and go, nah, this is wrong, the map's wrong, they'll brace against it because, no, the audience likes that map, and they'll justify why it's a useful tool to use. You see what I mean? Well, that doesn't refine their arguments, but it's made them successful to the point, so they'll continue to perpetuate that cycle. That make sense, Brian?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I can't talk right now a whole lot. I'm just in a noisy place, but I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, well,
I'm listening, though. I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying we've got a very, very nuanced argument now. It's very refined, and but if you've got certain aspects of flat earthism that you really like and you attached yourself to, belief or otherwise, us bracing against it is going to go down badly. So it doesn't necessarily, even in times when you're not being censored, detractors that go against the grain, people don't like. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. So hence, if we're going to be that, we might as well try and soften the blow a little bit, which is why I'm saying moving into 2025 as we're now approaching it, it might be a good idea to start telling people that it isn't such a big deal. I'm not saying flat Earth's a nothing burger. I'm saying flat Earth is how it always was, and you've got to gerrymander a lot of things to get it to the state where people believe they're actually standing on this reified mathematical paradigm created by the church from flat Earth measurements. So on the one hand, you could approach it as we move into 2025 with people that, no, nothing much will change. No, it isn't that big a deal. It always was flat, and all I'll offer you is a little bit of enlightenment in terms of how the religion of a ball came to fruition, how it was made with flat Earth measurements. So will it change you having to pay the mortgage and go to work tomorrow? No. But now you know that you were in a religion and you don't have to be anymore. If you choose to continue to be in that religion, at least you'll go forth with the enlightenment of knowing how that religion is measured. Flat.
Yeah, like flat Earth isn't some big change or anything. It's so funny because Globers think that flat Earth must be a completely different Earth than what we experience or something. It's so funny that they think that when in fact it is the very Earth that we all experience.
Yeah, we all experience, measure, travel across, map, chart, fly, sail Earth as a flat plane. And it takes quite a lot of effort to convince people mentally that they live on a sphere. It needs constantly to be propagandized into them at every opportunity. And that is quite expensive in terms of the aspects of space travel, which is all bunk and lies, to create the idea and keep it there. That has to be constantly peddled just below the surface just below your general level of interest. Not on primetime TV and Netflix. No, no, no. Just below the surface. Maybe as a news item halfway through the news. Maybe as a YouTube Shorts video that you see as you see a rocket coming back into land from SpaceX. Just enough to let you know that, this stuff's still going on. We're still exploring space. The odd NASA article that News at 10 tell you about. That's all it takes. Meanwhile, pump 52 million a day into it to keep all of the people peddling various different technologies that they're genuinely and legitimately developing with NASA heading paper as they make their notes. Doesn't mean it's got anything to do with the actual lie of space. There's only a handful of people who are actually lying. Astronauts, specifically. That's it. Nothing much changes. Earth will always be flat. That's how you've always experienced it. Nothing's going to change. It's not unfolding tomorrow. You're just now aware that there's a religious belief of it being a sphere that most of the people who are under that impression, or misapprehension, were unaware of. The religious aspect of it, that is. The nonsensical, non-true bit part of it, they were completely blissfully unaware of until you point out how Earth's actually measured. But nothing really changes. It was always measured that way. Flat. We're at the hour mark, and I've got a couple of videos. Should we have a listen to a couple of minutes of one of them? The lesser of two evils. Who is it? Godfrey what? Godfrey Comedy? Okay. I don't think Liam's around to tell us why he's picked this video out, but we'll have a little listen.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Why?
Well, they're going to go through the do-si-do. They're going to go for the flat Earth proofs, and he's more of a globe skeptic than a flat earther. But it's just some new content. There's a lot of views, and it's a different community than ours. So I thought, why not?
Okay, fair enough.
You're a flat earther, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Lord Jamar is a flat earther, everyone. Why are you a flat earther, sir?
Because it's ridiculous to think that someone can live on a ball.
That's not being a flat earther, as you say. That's being an anti-glober. So it's ridiculous to think you're on a ball. Okay. I mean, in 2024, we just say Earth's measured flat. That's how your ball that you think is ridiculous came to fruition.
To think that water could wrap itself around a spinning ball, to think that people could be on the bottom of a fucking ball and be upside down because some magical
antipodal
thing called gravity is allowing it to happen.
So
these are all globe stories. See, this is why it's important to make sure that the people who do, as Cream does, rise to the top of any given community are peddling these arguments. Why are you a flat earther? Because globe doesn't do this, because globe doesn't do that, because globe, and not globe, not globe, not globe. That's why you're a flat earther. Yep. Now, our audience are being furnished with the arguments that let them know in no uncertain terms that the Earth is obviously, observably, measurably flat. So that when somebody asks me, you're a flat earther, why are you a flat earther? Because that's how Earth's measured.
the water should be pouring into space then.
Everything should be pulled into space, into the so-called vacuum of space if there's no covering. If we have...
Not bad. Not bad. See? Takes this long, man. Takes 8 years for these arguments to trickle through. As much as it's still the same criticism, right? Not onto flat Earth yet, mate. Oh, it's not a space vacuum. Fair enough. We did the full housekeeping gambit today.
No covering our atmosphere, our
he has
waters.
to take a bit of responsibility.
Go on.
Sorry, no. I was going to say he has to take a bit of responsibility for his misapprehensions, but at the same time, we empathise with him because this is the information he's been fed. It's hard to find information that you're putting out. So we can only go by what he can find, what the algorithm will allow him to see without scrolling for hours and hours.
Okay. I mean, it looks like we are getting into this. I'm enjoying it more than I expected to be perfectly honest. So we'll do the usual YouTube stuff, which is to say, please let Godfrey Comedy know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite, non-sweary, non-abusive, not going to get removed by the videographer or YouTube algorithmic bots immediately comment that says exactly as I've just said. At Nathan Oakley 1980, all one word, sent me. just to let him know that we've responded to however this goes. I'm completely green to this. Sensible Goat's watched it, so he's obviously got an idea what's coming. I don't. But it is worth, we are going to cover this. I've just decided on the fly that we are going to cover this, even though we're in an hour to this live show. Anyway, unless there's any objections. Take that as a no. Anyway, please let the videographer know. I'll do a couple more calls to action to the live stream audience. As you can see, I've popped it up on screen now. The idea of us doing this while you're all toddling along to actually let this videographer know, Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, is that if he was to respond, he'd do the same for us. He'd put a link to our video. Help us along in the YouTube algorithm, that we definitely do not receive any algorithmic love or favoritism from YouTube. We're heavily censored at the behest of Congress. So the only way we get any sort of love is by our audience, or in this case, your audience, which is also my audience. I'm sending them your way to leave polite comments. Hopefully you do the same for me in return. So if you are in the live stream audience, please toddle along. I can see the numbers dropping to my live stream count, which is good in this instance, because it means people are actually going away to that link and letting this videographer know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So yeah, it has been effective in the past. I know QE's gone back through the videos that I've asked people to do this on and actually done comment responses on people who've left those comments. Not that I'm suggesting that'll happen for me. I won't necessarily do that. And other... not necessarily the videographer themselves, but someone who was a guest on one of the videos that we covered a day after it had come out, happened to be monitoring the comments on the video they'd featured in, and came along to our channel while we were live streaming to make comment. A lady, a physicist. So yeah, it is effective. So hopefully that's enough calls to action to, yes, the numbers hopefully going back up again, so people are actually making their way back. Please do come back if you don't disappear as soon as you've left. Hopefully the people will come back after leaving a nice comment. Anyway, I think that's enough.
Nathan, there was a respondent the week before that, if you remember, Jay, the gamer, young lad. He said he was going to make a response video to you and turn up and debate you. Have we any further on that yet?
I don't know. I don't keep tracks. These people are all full of bravado when we respond to them in that regard. I've seen that after the fact, there's been plenty of the videographers who have come and just left a comment on my video. Snide comment that's non-responsive, typically. He was no different. Vaguely remember him coming along going, ha ha ha! And then about 50 people below him going, what are you laughing at? That's not a response.
That was Ben.
Okay. I can't remember who that is. But I won't remember these guys tomorrow, so no offence to anybody that I can't remember after the fact. We do so many of these. Anyway, let's crack on. I'm sure the audience, the numbers are going back up. So the audience is responding and coming back from leaving nice comments. And I'm sure they're pleased to see that we haven't actually got into it yet. But we will now. So if you haven't made your way back, you'll just happen to see us halfway through when you do.
Everything should be sucked in.
Yeah, thank you. Should offer my appreciation. I really do appreciate all of you who do actually toddle along and do that. And I do periodically check myself and see. And it does bring a smile to my face every time I see. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, you responded to your video, just to let you know, or something like that.
So you think we're in a
yeah, thank you.
Dome?
Absolutely. Although, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Oh, shit. You
Here's
never
the
heard
thing.
this shit, huh?
Hey.
He already made the argument for this. He said there can't be a space without containment, or words to that effect. Now he's rephrased it as dome, and now what, we're at the beginning of the argument? He's been Jedi mind tricked into a rinse and repeat when he's already won this argument. He won it with his opening statement.
Explain.
Here's the thing, right? There's certain things that they don't allow you to explore, right? So there's certain things that I can't.
Ugh, you've already won this argument. Gas would fill the space. It's a law of nature, second law of thermodynamics. And now you're going to speculate about what the edge of the dome? Oh, you're opening yourself up for ridicule, my friend.
Can't prove. I can't go. I'm not allowed to go up there and touch this. You understand what I'm saying?
And why are you arguing about what you can't do? The way we expanded the known territories was flat. The way we charted and mapped the surface with the stars is flat. The world has been expanded out already. The maps have been increased in terms of the masses of land that were on them. As we sailed the oceans flat, navigated with the stars flat, and charted the world as we did so flat. So, taking it to a place where you can speculate about what we can't do at the edge of the dome, oh man, you're just opening yourself up for ridicule. There's plenty of examples of how we did expand the territories. You don't need to appeal to something that you can't prove just because someone's mentioned the word dome. Containment. We must have it in order to maintain gas pressure. It is that simple. Hey, Refracted.
Hey, how's the? Are you in the live show?
Yeah, we're still alive.
Have y'all talked about Neil yet?
Yeah, I mentioned him about 10 minutes into the show because I'm sure there's people worried about him and stuff. Have you had any more updates?
No, I haven't.
There's nothing more to update you on. He's been in a wreck. The car flipped over. His hand got crushed. Back got damaged. Now he's in hospital. His brother's going to pick him up today and take him to his wife. That's it. Nothing else to report on. I've asked people to go and give him money. That's about all I can do. Gave him some money myself. I don't really think, other than prayers, I can't really do much else. Sad, isn't it? Overworked. That's why he's crashed.
Saying
Right.
So this is only what I can surmise, especially from thousands of years, because only 500 years ago did they come with this whole heliocentric model. All the different civilizations prior to that knew that we lived on a level plane. Okay, water always finds its what?
Level.
Exactly. Water always needs a what? A container. You see?
Yeah.
I can't have this drink on the outside of my cup. It must
Considering he's doing this on the fly, I've got to admit, he's not doing a terrible job, is he?
be on
No,
the
he's quite
inside
charismatic as well.
Yeah. He's got me. I'm engaged.
of my cup. It must have a container. Okay? So there's no way that water could just stick to the outside.
What's this guy on the left looking for? Is he looking at the chat? Is he looking to a producer? What's his deal? What's the fat guy looking at? Anybody? You familiar with this show? What's offstage right? Anybody know?
No.
Side of a spinning ball. Think about it.
Right.
Where's the 1,000-mile-an-hour? Because it's supposed to be
Because
going
on an axis.
Now he's into non-positive claims. Yeah, all of these assertions are for you if you wish. Not that I'd be suggesting this in 2024, but you, if you wish, to put to him. Why do you think you're on a ball? And let him make the positive claim because we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. You as a flat earther, you don't need any of this shit anymore.
And it's on an axis.
So listen, not just
Axis, you'll need a flat earth for that.
a ball that's like this. It's a ball like supposedly like this.
Yeah,
And that
Yeah. The prevalent information in flat earth community, if you can actually find it, is this shit, isn't it? Feast of nonsense. Now, we're just as guilty. We put this stuff out for years, but we put the antidote out. Wasn't necessarily absorbed by the entire community, but we put the antidote out, i.e. globe destructions. And he seems to have had a vague whiff of them, but he isn't exactly using them. This is all pretty much feast of nonsense.
access also equals to 666. But that's some
What?
oh yeah, that's some whole other shit.
What
But
the
anyway-
fuck?
Yes, sir.
Axis of evil?
Anyway,
Damn.
He's talking about it being 66 degrees off horizontal. Is that what he's talking about? Axial tilt.
66.6. Yeah.
So what? You know, you're describing an angle with respect to a plane in each instance of the deviation when you describe the tilt of an axis. You still need a flat plane for it. Describing rotation. What
But
rotation is down to them to prove. It's non-positive. You don't have to prove we're stationary and not moving. I don't have to prove we're not unicorn. Go on.
That whole thing with the axis or with the tilt, it's geometric and it's actually numerological because it's 23.4 in one direction and 66.6 in the other. Now, 2 and 3 is 5 and 4 is 9. 6 and 6 and 6 is 18 and 1 is 8 is 9. It's geometry. It's down to geometry.
Yeah. It's a nicely divisible number.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
It means nothing though, does
But
it? In
all
terms
the
of
geometry
does that make it
adheres to
the
that number.
does that make the heliocentric derivative? This is Keplerian, right? Is the axis part of the extended elliptical motion that Kepler introduces? Where does the tilt come
Yeah.
from? It's
That's
part of
from
it is
Kepler.
part of the explanation for the analemma, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for you know the way the sun in the winter time in the north, the sun appears to be lower in the
Yeah,
sky.
it's taking a tighter loop in the time lapse.
and higher. Yeah, it's to account for that.
That's it. That's mathematically accounting for something that you're measuring with respect to a flat plane and deriving it into this paradigm to better describe the sun and the stars and their positioning all in one system called heliocentrism. That's the facts of the matter, and those facts include measuring Earth flat for the angles. Where does this dude go? 666? Who cares? You're just sounding like a nutter. I mean, I don't blame you. You've got all this crap from the conspiratards in Flat Earth. But you do sound like a nutter.
The problem with all that stuff is that it's all conspiracy, but they don't research what the purpose of it is or its actual base. So it comes out as if it's there's some. Well, I'm not saying there isn't some nefarious background to it, but the point is that it's the reason for that is geometric. I mean, now maybe they did that on purpose. I don't know, but it's geometric. It's purely geometric. You know, where do we get geometry from? Oh.
Right. Yeah, it's not nefarious. It's not the number of the beast.
So now you're on an axis, and then you supposedly have land masses that are going on the top, on the side.
All you're doing is describing globe. Yeah? Can everyone now get... I know we're well into 2024, obviously we're nearly at the tail end of it, right? But can everyone understand why I've pushed this rhetoric? Don't just talk about how your opponent's claim fails, and then talk about how something that is non-positive, in this case axial rotation, is anything to do with us. We haven't got a claim to make in that regard. Curvature and describing how it doesn't work, it's just old hat. It's just why we do things here. No offense to you, my friend.
And on the down under, right? They call
Is it them making that noise?
it down under for a reason.
Right.
So do you believe that
Someone trying to say something then? Like Earth
It was
Ranger?
RC.
Yeah,
Go on, whoever's got the
I was going to
horrendous
say, sorry. I was going to say it's like having a debate with someone and they bring in a horse and talk about how it's a unicorn. You can sit there and argue with them that it's not a unicorn, or you can just point out it's a horse.
Right. No, prove it's not a unicorn. No, I don't need to do that. Prove it's not spinning. No, I don't need to do that. That's your positive claim. Now, when you get into it, I'll start taking it apart at the base claim if you're going to be in line with global rhetoric. Because if you are, you're going to be arguing for Coriolis and two separate reference frames. I'll take a giant steaming dump on your positive claim and debunk it. Then we're back to square one. What's that? Once I've debunked your claim of Coriolis deflection on a turning Earth with an axis that's with respect to a plane, I should prove we're not spinning. No. It's non-positive. I don't have to prove we're not a unicorn. Earth not a unicorn. Earth not spinning. These are non-positive claims. I don't have to prove anything. What I can do is point out that there's an axis with respect to a flat plane, though. You'll need a flat plane for that.
that people are upside down right now in Australia and that rain goes up instead of down?
No, they see this is overcome within the Feast of Nonsense. They incorporate this language so that a more well-versed, globe-believing fundy can undo your terminology with respect to his misapprehensions of being on a ball. And say, nah, antipodal, nah, gravitationally attracted to a core with a 109-year out-of-date incorrect assertion of mass attracting mass. At the point that you are at the top, even if you're at the bottom. You're always at the top. They'd start correcting you on how you misunderstand their globe religion rhetoric in your misappropriation or incorrect use of upside down rather than antipodal. I mean, don't get me wrong, their assertions that would overcome this are easy to overcome for somebody who's better versed than you in terms of their gravity assertions and fixed point of top down, always with respect to the ball in any description. So Australia, no, it's just the top for them.
It rains up in Australia.
No, it doesn't. Yeah? For them, they could overcome your argument, but you don't need to be postulating this on their behalf. He's asked you why you're a flat earther. So if you're going to put arguments that are bad for why it's not a ball that can be overcome by a baller, does that mean that you're not going to be a flat earther anymore if this is your justification? Oh, I would hope not. But it just means you've been given crappy arguments to offer up as your justification. It tells me one thing about you, sir. You're not a flat earther, you're a flat earth believer.
And people are upside down, or, you know, in different parts of the planet, you know, we're sideways. We're walking, we're sideways as we, you know,
Right.
Like
Inception.
Do you believe that planes are landing on moving runways?
More Feast of Nonsense straight out of 2015. I mean, it's correct. If you've got two frames of reference, that's the natural consequences of it. It's not an incorrect argument, but it starts with, if Earth was turning, what would happen? Look, it doesn't happen. Okay? That's not really a flat Earth argument. It's an anti-globe argument.
Why can't I go up in a helicopter for an hour if the world is spinning? Why can't I hover for an hour and come back down and be somewhere else?
Again, as much as I hate to do it, a person who's on the globe side will deny their own initial claim of Coriolis and say that you have a fixed frame of reference, one only, and that Earth and atmosphere spin along with each other. I mean, it flies in the face, figuratively and literally, of an assertion that we have two reference frames, but you have to understand this argument. That is to say that if you're going to postulate it in attack of a claim that he hasn't made to you yet, proactively, for them, the globers, then you would suggest that if Earth is a turning reference frame, in order to induce a Coriolis deflection, which they absolutely assert occurs with bullets and pendulums and gyroscopes, at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, then a flight would have its flight time reduced because Earth would be turning underneath to necessitate the 15 degrees an hour deviation claimed in Coriolis. We do not observe that effect, therefore Earth is not turning. But why in 2024, almost 2025, are we arguing as flat earthers for why Earth isn't doing something? It's their job to prove their positive claim based on their belief. And when they do, what we would suggest in 2024 you do is take them to the flat Earth prerequisite in every one of their claims. Earth will be measured flat for every single globe claim ever uttered. And if you know how Earth is measured flat to make those assertions, in this instance, axis of rotation, with respect to a horizontal plane. You need a flat Earth for this. Description in mathematics, given to you by the church 500 years ago, as you accurately identified.
Wherever you find it.
Ads. Bummer. It's nice to see the old rhetoric, but it does seem very dusty and old, doesn't it now?
Damn. That makes sense. It does, but this...
Does it? That you should have antipodal positioning described as upside down, raining in Australia? That makes sense to you? Standing sideways like in Inception? This made sense to you? I think you're just being polite to your friend.
This is what I heard. I was talking to a former fighter pilot, and they get up to 50,000 feet. Like
50,000 feet with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Height above sea level, you need a flat Earth for that height. Straight away, you've given a flat Earth proof. You don't know it. He doesn't know it either. But height is with respect to sea level. Height proves a flat Earth. Elevation of the altitude of the aircraft is off a flat Earth.
3,000 something more feet. And I said, do you see the curvature of the Earth? He says,
when you've just measured the altitude with respect to a flat plane, that seems ludicrous now that I've pointed out that the height's with respect to a surface level, sea level. That's how altitude is. So when you're measuring the height and saying, when you're at this height above sea level, do you see curve? See how stupid that sounds when you undermine the argument at the offset?
Yes, we do.
He's lying.
He said, yes, we do. See Earth curving when at an altitude with respect to level. You see how stupid you'd make the pilot seem if he said that? If you know Earth's measured flat with altitude.
To you. He's a Mason. I guarantee it.
That sounds like a baseless assertion about a probably family man pilot that doesn't know any better, that's got no nefarious intent when he claims that he can see through the cockpit of his aircraft a curving horizon. I go, okay. Is there any practical application for a curved horizon when your altitude, altimeter, horizon meter, and all descriptions of all flight always describe a flat plane to reference? Would you say that your seeing could be deceiving you because you're not seeing something that's usefully referenced as horizontal? It's part of the description. It's the horizon. You're saying that curves, do you, sir? That seems kind of crazy. Could it be that you're deceived in terms of what you see through that aircraft window that might be curved, for instance? Maybe it's that you've got such an expansive view that you're seeing your periphery and assuming that curves. Who knows? It doesn't. The horizon has a practical application. It lets you fly straight and level now, doesn't it? When you're monitoring how high you are above the ground continuously. Above a flat plane. Measured from sea level. It seems stupid to call him a Mason, but it does make you sound like a conspiratard and give every person in the audience justifiable reason to ignore everything that comes out of your mouth from this point forward. But that's why you've been poisoned with this stuff, my friend. We call it the Feast of Nonsense. You're parroting it right now.
Damn.
I guarantee you this guy is a Mason.
Really?
You're going to repeat that baseless assertion for a man you've never met that you've only heard described in about 17 words? Wow. Amazing crystal ball abilities you have there, sir.
Because I have footage where as high as you go, you always see a level plane.
Therefore, he's a Freemason. We use the horizon in practical application when flying, though, don't we? I mean, if you'd have given it more than a cursory search of the Feast of Nonsense subject that is Flat Earth to affirm your belief in this conspiracy, which it isn't, you'd know that it was measured flat in every example from you and him so far. You don't know, you don't know. That's why you need to share this show. Well over 100 people watching. Please share the show if you've not done so already. This is the cutting edge of Flat Earth information here on Flat Earth Debate. No offence to you, my friend. I'm sure you've got the best of intentions.
Really?
You always see a level plane.
So we practically apply it to flight and measurements when in flight.
High as the observer goes, there is always a level plane. There is no curvature.
That's true.
There should
that's true also.
Be, by Pythagorean's theory, right? There should be 8 inches of curvature per square mile.
What got to do with Pythagoras? What's he talking about? Why is he calling that Pythagoras?
Per mile squared. It should be 8 inches per mile squared.
Yeah, what do you mean it should be?
He's talking about
dare
if you're using. He's talking about if you're using triangles from a center point. But that would be what you're supposed to.
Yeah. You're talking about Al-Biruni trig, right?
If you wanted to.
Deriving trig for radial value in the case of Al-Biruni isn't the same as 8 inches per mile squared, though, is it? Just a squared function. 8 inches per mile squared is just 8 inches per mile squared. It's just a squared function. What's that got to do with Pythagoras? He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, it's how you can work it out from the center point. You work it out with just triangle.
Okay, maybe I stand corrected.
Yeah, you can work it out using from a center point. You can do it, but there's different ways to do it. Adam would probably. I'm not in a position to go through it now. Yeah, you can work it out from a center point with a triangle.
Yeah, that says maybe. But working out from the center point with a triangle, a la Al-Biruni dip measurement, asserted to be the difference between eye level and surface level, as per the Earth curve maths, that then gives you a radial value and an asserted deviation from straight, horizontal, called a curve, with a point below surface level. Okay. Now, yeah, I understand that there's going to be a certain amount of Pythagoras in that, but when you just boil it down to 8 inches per mile squared, that's just 8 inches per mile squared. You know what I mean? To Duncan, he says he has no idea what he's talking about. Yeah, that's how I view it. Brian's making apologies for him.
Curvature that you see. We do not.
It's more like to do with Al-Biruni in that.
Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway, yeah, let's move on.
see such curvature, sir.
I'm a flat earther. What's your rhetoric? What do you want to leave in the mind's eye of the audience, mate? Research curvature. Listen to what he's saying. This is how the feast of nonsense works. This is how you get flat earthers to be basically on your side. They're just propping up a false dichotomy argument. Both sides led by the same argument.
8 inches of curvature per square mile. Visible curvature that you see.
Damn.
We do not see such curvature, sir. This is some bullshit that they use to create, basically to take God out of the equation.
Mason to high altitude footage to there is no Earth curve, all of which I hate in 2024. There is no Earth curve. Earth not a unicorn, people. Earth not a unicorn. Who cares? Leave this guy to make the positive claims. If you're going to be a flat earther, know it's flat. And know how to just tell people that. Know how to express that in the same passion you're telling people to look into the lack of Earth curve. The words you're using are globe Earth related language. You're just reaffirming people's understanding. You're putting a modicum of doubt in their mind, but without anything to justify detachment from that belief. It's just check out how it might not work. And why? Because this guy's a Freemason, for sure. They're hiding God. I mean, he's just spewing Dave Weiss.
So let me ask you something.
Yes.
The Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're on to Big Bang. What now? Theory? Ugh. This is not a theory. It's pure church rhetoric.
When's the last time?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want to repeat their claim as they make it, and they'll probably agree with, is if you get high enough, you can see level deviate from level.
Yeah, that's how Al-Biruni works with the dip to derive R. That's how Earth curve derivations work after the fact with the R value, radius, that is. When we're talking about Pythagorean anything. It's how much will it... Say that again, John. You said it beautifully.
How much will level deviate from level?
How much will your level, that's your eye level at altitude measured from surface level, deviate from the surface level you've raised up from? How much will level deviate from level? Yeah, that's dip.
Yeah, but it's silly to say that level is going to not be level to level. You can't even make it to work in a sentence.
Yeah, well, what they're actually saying is, if I take a level, surface level, and then I take a different level parallel with that level, that's eye level, at altitude, then the eye level that's parallel with the ground level isn't the same level. It's a different level. You're like, yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, well, how different is it? Well, it's this much different. Well, we can call that a radial derivable value, can't we? Why? Because the horizontal that you create in your eye when you rise up at altitude and measure how high you are off the surface level is different from one another. Yeah, you can call that Earth curve. Well, you could, but it's stupid.
An explosion, which usually destroys things, created something.
Otherwise known as the first law of thermodynamics violation. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Billions of years ago.
No, because that's what they told
us, right. That's
when in...
where did they get the timeline? Yeah, you see, you're going to need Keplerian derivations also, aren't you? You know, for your Big Bang winding back the clock, you know, there is a rhyme and reason that is also derived from the motions of the stars to give them this story. All of it is based in flat plane motion. Doesn't matter if it's an asymptotically flat plane of the sky through a orbital or elliptical motion for everything based at the centre of spheres, including Earth with a flat plane, or the flat plane of reference that's measured in the first instance. Doesn't matter. There's a flat plane used throughout the process to give you this story of the Big Bang.
So when can I do an experiment? Right.
Guys, guy doesn't know what science is. I mean, we're just as guilty as our opponents if we're going to start asking for experiments. We're in a category error. If we're going to highlight the fact that it isn't a scientific endeavour, and then whistle past the graveyard of their use of this incorrect terminology by asking for it ourselves. It just shames us, really.
Right now, they're doing a hadron collider trying to fucking find the God particle.
Doesn't mean anything. Yeah? Smashing stuff into each other. So what? Particle colliders have existed since the 70s. I think that because they've scaled it up to the size that they've got under Switzerland and the rest of Europe in the form of this giant hadron collider. So what? They're smashing stuff into each other. That's not an experiment. If you knew what science was, this wouldn't faze you in the slightest. The fact that they've put a provocative name attached to some of the discoveries. I mean, again, you scroll back through my videos, you will find me 10 years ago talking the same shit. So I'm just as guilty when I first came to the subject. Oh, look at what they're doing at CERN. Yeah, it's just meaningless tripe, though, once you know what science is. It's inconsequential, really.
Because they're trying to find creation out of destruction, and you never will.
Is that what they're trying to do? I thought they were just smashing particles together at high speed. It's not an experiment. But it's very elaborate. I mean, it's a very, very, very big and expensive machine. Cool, huh?
Because there was a lie.
Shit. So how did this...
Also, it's entirely run by Masons. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Why not?
Is the solar system real? Do we have planets, or is it bullshit?
Again, what would we do, John? We'd refer to their plane of reference in all orbital motion when describing anything in space moving around the sun in a solar system.
Yeah, to describe planets, you need Earth to be a flat plane to describe them from.
And says he launches into how it's not heliocentric after the fact. We'll see.
It's bullshit.
Because
let me tell you this.
Oh, what do we got? What do we got? Thank you, Mecca. Thank you, Mecca.
We can't hear your producer, Dumbo.
Flat power. All my flat panthers out there, peace to you.
Peace to all you people without microphones.
Peace to the gods and the flat earths.
Hey, when I lay down with her, she get flat on her back.
Okay, well, I think I'm done. Is there anything more to this? Liam?
That's the best of it.
That's about the best of it, right? I suspected as much. Okay, I mean, as I said at the beginning of this, please let him know. Godfrey, his name is Godfrey Comedy. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that will not immediately get eradicated by the YouTube bots or the videographer themselves. Hopefully, if he was to do a response in terms of what we've put to him or his guest in this regard, his Flat Earth guest, hopefully he'd have something to say and he'd put a link to our video. 110 people watching. If you've not done so already, as I say, please let Godfrey Comedy know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a reasonably polite comment. Thank you very much if you've already done so. Audience is responding well. Thanks, Nathan. That was great. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Caprica Soul, same guy as last time. Hold my beer. Bosh. Pitch data. All right, cool. Anything anyone wants to add?
I think you Mike could sell this understanding to flat earthers better if you pointed out that every single argument that they could have been perceived to have lost in the past with the Glober had already conceded to the argument prior to it happening.
Yeah, there has to be a complete ignorance of the genesis of all measurements if you're going to argue and feel that you've lost to a Glober. No, they needed a flat earth prerequisite to make that argument. You just didn't even know it. They had to accept a flat earth before they entered into debate with you. Anything else? Any more for any more? No? With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow.
4 on, 4 off.
Good choice. I like that. It always seems to be the case when I'm really apprehensive about doing them. They turn out to be quite good.
Yeah, he was quite charismatic. He had a bit about him. he had enough to carry an audience, even if he was wrong. You know, he was entertaining. That's half the battle.
It kind of sounds like anybody who's beginning to question their understanding is in this topic.
Yeah, he was very relatable.
Yeah, but people seem to be put in this position where you're at that early stages. You're just starting to question the belief that you currently have. That is to say, you're going, I don't think it really is a globe. Well, why would you doubt it's a globe? Well, then, if you presented everything he said, you'd go, well, fair enough. That's your reasons for doubting the globe. Because that's what he's offered. But he's out as a flat earther, and he's encouraged to be outed as a flat earther. Like, his intro is like, oh, I hear you're a flat earther. Yeah, I'm a flat earther. This guy is a flat... You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Why the over-dramatic introduction and highlighting of that fact? Well, because now he's going to be able to task, and what's he going to offer? He's doubting the globe. He's doubt in the globe.
Yeah, you can come to the acceptance of something without necessarily understanding it. You know, and that's what happened with the globe. The same thing can happen with flat Earth. You know, dealing in belief is a very tricky area to work in.
Say that again. I was with you up until you said it was a tricky area to work in.
Beliefs, what people believe, you know, it's hard to control that because people are believe whatever they want to believe. But as far as what they accept with or without evidence, that ain't even a belief topic.
Yeah, that's it. It needs to be peddled into society as a belief. Why would you believe in flat Earth? Why wouldn't you believe in a globe? Said it on the live show. That's why we're dangerous. Say again.
Then they're on even footing, and both ideas can be held simultaneously. You know,
And it's a false dichotomy where one side has consensus, who inevitably has victory.
Yeah, that's how it's been peddled into the conscience of the society that may or may not brace against one or other belief. And then, like I say, they can step in and patch any cracks. For the people who actually expose reality for what it is, like we do. Brian saying he's proud, or was when he was here, saying he's proud that they're censoring the pitch data or trying to bury it. Like, yeah, because it shows them what really scares them. You know, people actually finding their way to flat Earth measurements that are undisputable. They don't want that in the mind's eye of anybody, and that's what we're exposing. So it's disappointing when we see people promoted above us that peddle crap, and then see people spinning that crap like we've just watched from that Godfrey channel. But ultimately, that's how it is because we're dangerous.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, you could use a pitch. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. John?
Oh, you could use the pitch data from the rocket ships. Why would they hide that? I wonder.
They lost it all from the original one, so I don't know. Telemetry data was all lost, wasn't it? Bummer.
Yeah, they could have showed how they calculated all the fuel they used to get there and proved that they went there.
They'd calculate it with respect to a flat plane.
You have to. We all have to concede it's flat first, and then we can argue about whether it's a globe.
Yeah. Do we take those flat measurements and turn them into a globe, or do we believe that we turn it into a globe and then turn it back into a flat map that don't work? You pick your choice.
Yeah, Flatzoid did a debate recently with, I think, against PhD Tony, or he's reviewing a debate. Can't remember which, but they put the pitch data to the opposite side, and they just dismissed it summarily by being entirely congruent with a globe with a momentaneously altering horizontal. So they weren't impressed by the argument, and the guys that were putting the argument forth didn't seem to be able to parse it out to make it impressive. In other words, they just showed up with it and expected it to be accepted, which it wasn't.
Oh, so what you're saying is they presented it and didn't really understand its strength, and then when it was hand waved, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, like they didn't really. There's a lot of underlying things that you have to be aware of in order to reject rebuttals, you know. Because, well, there's one thing to make an argument that is a correct argument. It's another thing to persuade your opponent, right? Those are two different things.
Yes. And in this arena, it's nigh on impossible to convince your opponent because they're zealots. You can't convince a zealot.
Yeah, it's the audience you're targeting.
Yes, therefore we have to have the audience limited.
In this arena, I've heard the anti-flat earther make a statement that definitively means that it cannot be a globe, as if he has just won the argument.
Say that again?
Well, just as an example, Simon Dan, you and your reference frames are ruined. You know, definitively, that means that there is no non-inertial and inertial reference frames to give you the idea of the Earth spinning. So you can't be living on a globe. But they'll make those statements as if they won the debate.
I'm being distracted with headlight things.
And I think I'd make everybody be quiet.
No, it just went quiet because I was talking to you and then my wife walked in and said, I've got to get these headlights out of the boot. I'm like, why, have the new ones come? She's like, no, but they're going to come and we need to get the headlights out of the boot. So we're going to end up with 6 headlights. There we go, that's life. Anyway, enough of my headlight woes.
Yeah, is that Dunning-Kruger to make a statement that debunks your original position as if you won the argument?
I don't know what you'd call it. With Simon Dan and you and your reference frames have been ruined. It's hard to describe what that is. Is it Dunning-Kruger? As in, he thinks he's got a good handle on what Coriolis effect is, and he knows there's only one reference frame, so he's going to tell me there's only... Or is it Nathan's putting a position where he shows that there's no drift, and that's a claim that there should be drift with 2 reference frames, so I'm going to debunk that's Nathan's, claim that there should be 2 reference frames, because he's misunderstood when I put the globe position and debunk it. He thinks it's my position, so it's just stupidity. It's hard to know. It's hard to put your finger on motivation or lack of comprehension that's led him to that position.
Sunk cost fallacy, cognitive bias.
You went through the sunk cost fallacy. Go through that again. Is it just how much you've invested in something?
Yeah, it's how much you've invested, but no gains, and you still keep your investment in it, even though it doesn't actually give you any benefit.
Gotcha. So it's the tin mine that's operating on a loss, and you just keep mining.
Just because you sunk whatever time, money, effort, whatever into it, you're going to keep that position, regardless of how your position changes. You're going to keep it, even if it doesn't benefit you.
We've already put 4 million into the mine. We've just refurbished it. The price of tin will go up eventually. Just keep mining.
Yeah, and just think about how much individuals and governments combined have put into heliocentric ideas. And that's really what you're arguing with.
Yeah, there's been a lot of money spent on consensus agreeing.
I mean, it's the reason that everybody's mind jumps to, why would they lie? Because it would have to be a lie to them because of the amount of investment that they themselves put into it. Everyone would have to be lying to them in their own minds.
Also, it's blowing it up to the point where you're diminishing your own responsibility. Everybody else must have been lying to me. I couldn't have just not seen the wood for the trees. Everybody's got to be lying, and everybody can't be lying. Therefore, my default position stands.
Well, it sounds silly when you say it that way.
There is huge amounts of money invested in making people believe they're on a globe, though, isn't there? Huge amounts. Indirect and direct. Indirect, like space movies. They're not necessarily government-funded propaganda movies. There are exceptions, 2001 being the classic example of propaganda movie. Government-funded. Well, why are they funding those sorts of movies? Well, to propagandise people. Into that instance, space. But that doesn't mean that Guardians of the Galaxy is government-funded propaganda. It's just perpetuating the lie that we were all indoctrinated with when we were born. Therefore, it's part of our imagination, and therefore part of the sci-fi genre, and therefore it just happens to prop up the heliocentric paradigm. The space paradigm, more specifically.
Yeah, how many collegiate departments would have to be shut down if everyone came to the understanding tomorrow about the nature of Earth?
Well, astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics, they'd all disappear immediately.
You think they'll just go quietly to that good night?
We're watching them not go quietly as we speak. This is what not going quietly is. Anti-flat earthism is them not going quietly.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the biggest problem. There'd be upheaval. You just wouldn't say, oh, you were just bullshitting us for what? A couple centuries now? I don't think so.
Well, if it isn't the biggest enemy of the globers, anti-flat earthers, and esoteric flat earthers. What's up, Kiwi?
Biggest enemy of those guys. Who said that?
They did.
Really?
They always bring you up with like a poison on their tongue, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're welcome.
Was I supposed to say thank you?
What is this, a new thing?
I'm just kidding. It's a joke, man.
Oh, gotcha. Something recent.
It ought to disrupt the entire legal system.
It ought to disrupt what? It'd be total upheaval. There would be riots in the streets.
The biggest problem.
Oh, we're just fooling. That ain't gonna happen.
No, the biggest problem is they've upped the stakes too high when they incorporated science into the lie of heliocentrism. The reason that's the biggest problem is because it's simultaneously their greatest magic trick universally. It doesn't just apply to heliocentrism. It runs right down the line to Michelin tyres have been scientifically tested to give you the best grip. Timotei hair shampoo, let the science show you the way. You know, that's the trick that shatters if something like heliocentrism is exposed alongside the lie of the science that was claimed to prove it. Once that's exposed, people go, oh, so it's not science. Well, what about all these other things that said that were science? Are they not science? Suddenly everyone questions everything that they believe in because they thought they didn't have to, because the science had proved it till that point. That puts everything that's lied to people about with science in jeopardy.
That's why it ain't gonna happen. No matter what you or I do.
Or it causes chaos. You said there'd be chaos? There is an alternative. If we aren't sufficiently suppressed, then that does actually happen. It would descend into chaos because suddenly everyone does actually question the integrity of all of what they know. We've seen it. Conspiracy Cats is always my best example of this. Well, everyone would have to be lying. I'd have to question everything if it was flat. Yeah, that's right. Suddenly you have to start assessing everything with your own reasoning skills that are probably woefully lacking.
People, you're not getting it. People be lynched.
Oh,
right?
you think
There'd be total? It get out of control. That's why it's not gonna
pitchforks and torches for the people that are perceivably lied to them?
Yeah.
They're not smart
Well,
enough to
Matt-
recognise that not everybody was the liar. That there's only a small, tiny handful of people. It's just everybody would be out to be lynching anybody else that's ever said it, regardless of their justified. I didn't know. Lynch him anyway.
But that's the question right there. How do you know who you're supposed to be lynching? If you follow the rules of power, the first rule of power is be unknown. So how are you going to find the people who are actually the power players? Probably not. You're just going to lynch a bunch of sacrificial patsies.
Well, you start with the astronauts, the people you know are lying. So you said you were in space, did you? Liar. Not that I'm suggesting
Oh, you
anybody
know who
should be
they are.
lynching
Then you
anybody,
go
but
to
that's the breakdown of society that QE's suggesting metaphorically or hypothetically.
It's not the astronauts. It's not just the astronauts. Yeah, they'd go quick. NASA would go quick. Then you would have to head to the universities, right? And not the entire university, but a specific part of that university, namely astronomy, astrophysics, and cosmology in this particular case. So they would all be lynched. We know who they are. It wouldn't be it's not people in the English department, right? But still, I mean, you got people being it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Just went to get coffee and there's no milk. Seems to happen every other day.
Yeah, well, there's also going to be a sentiment among people that these people that are involved are actually not as nefarious. In other words, they're duped just like the public, even though they have this representation of seemingly knowing what they're doing and contradicting it. It wouldn't matter. There'd be enough plausible deniability that to go after them and lynch them would actually create a backlash among the normal society because they try to all, kumbaya and be like, hey, we've all been deceived by the real power players. And then, of course, they're going to have to go on a witch hunt to find them.
Well,
when you have that type of chaos in a society, yeah.
They don't have a leg to stand on. Who are you talking about? Once you get to the universities, it's over. So what do you think? They're going to stand up and say, well, we've been no, that dog wouldn't hunt. How would that dog hunt?
They're going to run biology right out the front door and say, take up for us, sir.
Oh, yeah, look, the people are going to have to find someone to kill to make themselves feel better about why they were duped, because it couldn't be that they were duped, right? So they have to blame somebody else. Even though the majority of people were duped.
So they're going to say the astronomers, the cosmologists, and the astrophysicists are going to say, well, we were duped. That dog wouldn't hunt.
Well, I've debated enough guys in those fields in the 24/7 years to know that they're retarded, and I wouldn't trust them to be like a power player deceiver, right? I would forgive them for being absolutely stone cold stupid, basically. The ones that I've encountered, anyway.
At university, they're going to be convinced and not lynch them because the public thinks they're a bit retarded. I don't think so. They'll ask questions later.
Yes, there will be innocent.
Oh yeah, I don't agree. I don't disagree that there will be people who will judge those people and want to lynch them to take out their angst. That definitely would happen, I'm sure.
They'll just change the model.
Yeah, then it would circle. There is no model. Then it would circle the drain right at that point. There would be no recovery.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually when those events happen in history, usually what happens is a regime change, because the populace really can't rise up to control themselves on any grand scale. So some charismatic leader or powerful agency shows up and be like, hey, we're going to take control now.
Yeah. Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Well, our power just got cut off, guys, so I'm probably going to have to figure out what's going on. I think I gotta make some errands. I gotta run some errands.
All right.
95% of the time, a squirrel has jumped into the transformer near your house.
Oh, I'm sure that it's because of negligent payment.
So,
Okay,
are
she
you
wasn't
guys,
talking about it.
so are you guys motivated now since that ain't going to happen? What's the point?
No. We were. She brought up the sum gain fallacy that some people are so
No.
locked on.
No, sunk
Oh,
cost fallacy, cognitive bias.
Sunken cost fallacy. That's a pot commitment fallacy.
Exactly. They've put so much effort and energy into their position that even if they change their position, they'll keep it even if it has no benefit to them whatsoever. Have a good one, guys. Have a good one, guys.
Later.
and then I just kind of threw in a curveball question to say that, well, what if everybody just accepted what they already knew to be true tomorrow? And it, it got crazy.
I think we all understand that ain't going to happen. The only way the populace is going to accept any new paradigm is if it's the mainstream paradigm, because most of them are just mainstream suckers. That's what they want to be. That's what they're raised to be, and they don't want to be anything else. They want a power structure to latch onto.
So your efforts are all in vain.
Yeah.
You will not convert the world to flat Earth. It's not going to happen. Nope.
But
Sorry.
I have heard that if you could convert the world to flat Earth, it would be peace forevermore.
Yeah. Is that what you heard?
Yeah, for real. If we all woke up as flat earthers tomorrow, human vice and frailty and wickedness would disappear.
Bad people
Yeah,
will
right.
become good people.
I think it would certainly help.
Oh, the power came back on. What's up, Jim?
It did. My husband paid it just now, and it came right back on. He's at work too, all the way like over 2 hours away from me right now. So that's great.
Yeah, it's not spoken about in Scripture. The Lord will come back before everyone realizes they're on a flat Earth. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, the truth will be made manifest again in flesh before people realize this. Yes.
Yep.
I would say that the approach that you guys have that's no nonsense and even at times harsh sticks better with people than, oh, buddy, it's flat. I got you. Let me show you, No, shut them down.
Yeah, it's flat, bugger.
I've
You
also
know that.
I've also encountered a segment of flat earthers who pride themselves on being hyper religious or scriptural, who actually want all the truth to come out, so that they can be part of the people that are killing people.
You're
So in other
roboting.
words, the motivation is to get their murderous. I apologize.
You murderous wretch. You're roboting. Friggin' Pogue, get your mic fixed. For about the, I don't know, high hundredth time.
Well, I would say that it takes the person, it's like a case by case scenario. It takes the person to be able to see the truth, just like it takes a certain, like the certain person to be able to understand that the scripture is true. So,
Nathan,
Well,
Nathan, where'd he go? Did he go get milk?
yeah, he's seen this as a good chance to run off right quick.
How's Neil doing?
There has been no new updates as of yet.
due to the fact that traumatic experiences usually will fade in your mind and not, you won't be able to remember how horrible it was because of how traumatic it was. I can't actually remember. I do remember that I had a horrible time, but the actual pain that I felt, I could never just think in my mind how bad it was.
Mama.
You are. You're about to be 6 years old.
Going to be a super drop.
Yeah, next month I turn 33 and he turned 6. The age that I am, the digits of my age add up to his single digit age.
Numerologically, that is a significant time in your all's life. Be prepared for amazing things to happen next year.
Oh yeah, it's a wild ride. It's pretty great. It's amazing, actually, not just pretty great.
Yeah, I was just being really ambiguous with it. So it fit in with numerology, where they make real
Like in the days,
ambiguous
this tarot
claims.
hour.
This is the first time he's ever anticipated his birthday a month before it.
That's awesome.
Since we're talking about the growth of the mind, and this is flat Earth debate, do you think that object permanency? Wait, hold on a sec. Oh, sorry about that. You think that where heliocentrism is pushed at such an early age, that the idea of object permanency like makes the Earth a ball in their mind, like more firm?
The age it's pushed at is actually well known. The childhood psychological developmental stage in which you want to know about the nature of where you live, who you are in relation to it. And there's actually documentation out there about kids that during this time, because they've experienced the Earth is flat and stationary. That's how they imagine it and talk about it and draw it. But when they're told about the globe, they have to reconcile that they can't actually experience it directly. So they create a secondary world. So they have the main world in which they inhabit and operate in, and then they have a secondary world in which they imagine themselves like kind of like outside their own body, looking back at the world, almost like a dream or an orthographic view, so to speak. And then for a period of time, they have these two competing systems, and then eventually they just give into the globe because it's quote unquote established or whatever. So if you want to know the answer to that question, there is publications out there about that.
I remember seeing something that Indio posted on 24/7 about that. Actually, yeah, and it's exactly what AI just said. It's like they have to think of the Earth as two different places, like the Earth that they live on, and then they create a whole other Earth that is what they're being taught.
Sounds like Oakley flat.
Yeah. But I just thought it was interesting that, at that early age where you're learning that if you see something, then it doesn't disappear when you take it away, that object exists. Like, is that why the globe is so predominant in children's toys?
Yeah.
That's why interculturally you have a extreme predisposition for whatever worldview you were raised in. Now in the modern era, that's mostly been supplanted by quote unquote mainstream schooling and science, so called, right? So most families defer to that as the ultimate authority. But before that, when families had their religious, cultural history that they would imprint upon their children during the times before they were able to go to school, the psychological development stage of that child was primarily in the whatever worldview their parents told them was true. So they would imagine the world outside of themselves and beyond what they can access as essentially a virtual world that they created in their mind based on what their parents told them. And so what most parents do nowadays is they supplant that authority from themselves to whatever the mainstream puts out. So in other words, rather than the parent inform the child about reality, they let the toys inform them, they let the cartoons inform them, and then they let preschool and first grade, etc., inform them.
Yes.
Well, I mean, they do it even as adults. If you walked up to someone and said, "Do you live in outer space?" They'd be like, "What? No, that's crazy."
Got a live show tomorrow, QE?
Oh, you're back. Yes, I do. Today might be a problem with the book.
Okay.
I'm going to be dodging tornadoes
Fair enough.
early this afternoon, so.
Around that anyway. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.